some ASMR.
Oh, I forgot to take any notes.
I
Going
noticed
off the dome. I was absorbed into the show.
I was like, I have not seen this man pull his phone out once.
It was very...
I had to take notes for the both of us.
Well, it's Wednesday night, and we are not in Rachel's apartment, but we are in the studio that we've recorded in once before. And regardless, we just watched Ahsoka, which must mean... I always mess up that word. Which must mean that it is Star Formers Night. Welcome, everyone, to Rebels and Robots, episode 35. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
And this is our weekly chat about Star Wars and...
Transformers, and our podcast is now old enough to go through its midlife crisis.
It's not 35 years, Rachel. 35 weeks.
Exactly.
Oh, midlife crisis. Right in the middle of Ahsoka.
Buy a boat.
Ahsoka's kind of going through a midlife crisis.
Oh, she's going through it.
And today we'll be talking about Ahsoka episode 5. Was it Shadow Warrior?
Yep.
But before we get to that, as always, we talk about recent thoughts and news. Rachel, you got any news for us?
Yeah, so one of my favorite Twitter pages, we're not calling it X, crazy moments in Transformers
This is where
history,
we draw the line.
posted that Unicron's roars in the 1986 movie are actually heavily modified Hulk roars from the 1982 Incredible Hulk cartoon performed by actor Bob Holt, which means, so Holt passed away before the movie's release, thus it has the distinction of featuring two posthumous performances for the same role.
That's crazy because...
There's something cursed about that role.
Because the actual voice actor of Unicron was... totally gonna blank on his name. Citizen Kane himself. Dang, I gotta look it up now.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Orson Welles.
Oh.
So Orson Welles died before days, right before the movie came out.
Days.
And then the guy who did the roars as well also died before it came out as well. Double posthumous. That's a hard word to pronounce.
Posthumous?
I don't think it's humus. That's a thing you put on bread in Israel.
Shut up.
I think we've looked this up before on the podcast. I think we've done this exact thing. Can I have a Google search? Posthumous. Give me a pronunciation, please.
Posthumous.
Posthumous.
I was close.
Like posture. Posthumous.
No, posthumous.
Oh,
That's the phonetic.
Posthumous. Posthumous. Posthumous.
I did not like that at all.
Posthumous. That's a hard word to pronounce correctly.
That was closest.
Anyways, where did you figure that out? You saw it on, you saw it on Twitter.
Crazy. What's Transformers history?
See, now I have to write down the time code because Athena's not here with us. Our editor, Athena, who's definitely an editor and not a cat. I have to write down the time codes on censoring out the word. Now I have to write down another one because I said it again.
It's a quote.
6-ish minutes in. And now
3 times.
Now we're probably only a minute or so into the recording as far as the final recording. So listeners might say 6 minutes. What? There's multiple minutes at the start of this because we could not nail down an intro.
No.
Anyways, I've got an article here that might be kind of interesting. Transformers Earthspark executive producers discuss Megatron's turn, Terrans, and season 2. So I'm curious as to what Megatron's turn means. So spoilers for Transformers Earthspark.
I know what you mean, but it's okay. You can explain for the listeners at home.
Let's see here. Yeah, so he went good in this show. Mm-hmm. Why? Do you know why?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but I think people have a lot of theories that it's probably like fake. It's not actually good.
Oh, that checks out. Yeah, because it kind of makes me think of there's a very famous from years ago, turned out, there was a very famous panel of a comic of Captain America saying Hail Hydra. Like, if you know anything about comics, you know either that's not him or it's a trick. Like,
Well, and the theory is so like the Transformers are working with a government organization called Ghost, and a lot of people have theories that it's probably not a good organization under the surface.
the show takes place in Witwicky, Pennsylvania. That's really funny. What a weird. Oh, the Terrans, the first Transformers born on planet Earth.
Yes.
What a weird. These human character models are awful. They look like the weird little like. I feel like for some reason this is weirdly specific.
Canny Valley.
Definitely. Like
They're too smooth. That's what it is.
like a lot of businesses, especially grocery stores, have like we're supposed to be
gosh, I know
cute
exactly what
cartoon
you're talking
characters.
about.
That's kind of what these look like. Or like Banks, especially
I
too.
almost said it, but that would have doxed us real fast.
So not just throwing a little bit of Transformers content.
It's like, is it like the Grubhub or the DoorDash animation?
That's a bad one. Yeah, there's just like a lot of ads these days.
I fear no man, but that thing.
So we're sitting here just criticizing a cartoon that we haven't watched, but I think there's a reason why we haven't watched it. What else you got?
I've heard really good things about it, though.
Really? That's wild.
Yes, I have. Anyways, so this is something we missed in the last episode of Ahsoka, and I'm actually ashamed that we missed it. There's a shot from last episode of the Ghosts ship's dashboard, and Hera has a physical picture of Kanan Jarrus. Which,
yes.
First of all, it's like pixelated as all get out, but it looks a little bit like Freddie Prinze.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the thing that some people pointed out: that's a physical picture. We don't really see physical pictures. That's a good Star
point.
Wars very often.
They're really, really committed to the hologram thing, which is bad technology, in my opinion. It seems like
where did she get that picture?
Yeah, who took it? This raises a lot of lore questions.
When did they have time to take portraits?
We don't see cameras. We don't see like the holograms just kind of happen.
Maybe that was like a third thing that Ezra's blaster lightsaber could do. It could take photos.
I'm gonna Google search photos in Star Wars and see if we have any other examples.
Maybe it's just like a really tiny painting that Sabine did.
Okay, let's see. Google search just gives me image like that's not
Pictures
helpful.
in Star
Do they
Wars
have
Google
photos
search?
in the Star Wars universe? Reese was known to use custom-made three-eyed camera. That's not.
It makes me uncomfortable. 3-eyed cameras.
Oh, this is a Star Tours thing. That's not helpful.
Oh. Well, the one and only physical picture we've seen is
As
of
far as I
Kanan
know.
Jarrus.
Yeah, there was something about that I was going to say, which is... I was complaining about the hologram technology. I think seemingly the only benefit of the hologram technology is that it has incredible range and it's instantaneous communication. But the actual projection of the hologram is terrible. Like it's not color accurate. It's glitchy as heck. It just does not...
I have a really funny story that's similar to that. So back when I first started working at my job, we did our staff meetings through Zoom because COVID. The big C, sorry.
There's a photograph of Chewbacca in his family's home in the Star Wars Christmas special.
Dang it, so it's not the first canon image.
This is, viewers, oh my gosh, it is hysterical. It's just a school photo
Historical,
of Chewbacca. Really. It's so funny. Anyways, continue, please.
So we had meetings through Zoom, and I made my background the bridge of a Star Destroyer.
Great.
Just for funsies. And so, it's just when I had like actual meetings, I would turn it off for professional reasons. But for like our internal staff meetings, I kept it on. And one time, my camera glitched out in the exact same way that the holograms in Star Wars fizzle out when they go side to side.
That's
and
great.
Then I disappeared, and it was just my background. And my coworker, who I'll be talking about later, at the time was losing it. He had to turn off his camera because it looked like I was Palpatine phasing out after like chewing out some Imperial officer. It was hysterical.
That's fun.
It's good.
So there are some more Transformers in the news. They're quite unspecified, though. It seems like they seem to be causing some trouble. Class
Almost
is
like
canceled
they're in
at Barbers.
disguise.
Classes canceled at Barber's High School on Wednesday after transformer fire led to power outage. So I guess this seems like news out of a Transformers movie universe. Transformer fire knocks out power to 4,000 customers. Colorado Springs driver hospitalized after hitting transformer, fleeing scene. Did the transporter see the scene, or did the driver flee the scene, or did both of them? These really do sound like headlines from like within a movie for Transformers. So that's what all I've got for Transformer news.
Someone made, this is the Star Wars news, but someone made this comparison. So they released a new character poster for Tava Carson.
Yeah.
Carson Tava. It's the same pose for his character poster from The Mandalorian.
That's so lazy.
And someone retweeted and said, "Me when I take one good selfie and post it everywhere." Because it's the same
hilarious.
exact pose, it's just in a
You
different
really
background.
couldn't get one photo of him on set,
No,
really?
They filmed all his
You
cameos.
don't have one other photo of him?
They filmed all his stuff in one day for all the shows.
Dang, dude.
And so this isn't really news, but this was some discussion that I saw, and I hate it. I saw some discussion that, you know, as we see Carson Tava, and he's been around a couple times, we've seen him. Mm-hmm. Someone said this might be an opportunity, and I use that word lightly, that since obviously the New Republic's not doing super hot and not really giving much help to this threat, Carson may call in Mando for backup since the New Republic isn't helping.
No!
And if that happens, I will actually
Don't.
I will be walking to California to voice my complaints directly with Mr. Dave Filoni myself.
Listen here, Hat Man.
Listen here, Hat Man.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of the Hat Man, we...
Ooh.
Mr. Hat Man. Hat me a man. Anyways.
Do you know that creepypasta, Hat Man?
No.
Oh my gosh, that's what I thought you were referencing.
Feels very
Anyways.
off topic. We are here to talk about what some people are claiming is his magnum opus. I think that's a bit far.
Ultra magnum.
Oh my god.
Anyways.
Good job. Episode 5 of Ahsoka.
I would like to talk about what my coworker said. Before
for
we
it.
start. So last night it's 9:20 p.m. and I just get a picture. He's a former coworker at this point. He's in another department. He sends me a very famous photo on the internet right now with the man holding his hands up to the sun, and where they've superimposed Dave Filoni's face over the sun. And I said, I keep hearing good things. And he texted me and says, good things is an understatement. It's like he took the brain of George Lucas, kissed it up to God, then injected it with mega steroids. I don't think I'll ever see something so visually chilling again.
That would be a great copy pasta. That'd be a really good copy pasta.
Wait. I'll talk to you later about it, but that's, yeah.
So, to recap from last week, we left off on a cliffhanger. Sabine joined our villains on their path to the other galaxy. They hyperspaced off, and Sabine fell off a cliff and woke up.
Ahsoka fell off a cliff.
Thank you. I really, there's something wrong with my brain. I get Sabine and Ahsoka's names.
They have two female characters, and you just can't figure out who they are. Does this show pass the Bechdel test? It doesn't.
Does. I think it does.
They're just talking about Ezra the whole time.
That's
Thrawn.
true. They are talking about Thrawn and Ezra a lot. But they also do talk about one another.
They did talk about the Purgles today, though. So does that
true.
count?
I mean, they're just animals. But,
It's not just an animal.
so...
It's a whale.
Wow. Ahsoka fell off a cliff and woke up in the world between worlds and turned around and saw a young Anakin, or like a episode 3
Young
era Anakin. Look, it's gonna be a long episode if you don't cut it out. And we pick up with Hera and Jason looking on the surface of Cetos or Cetos. I think every character mentions each of those syllables differently every time they say it. And that's the planet where the previous couple episodes have taken place. And Jason, Hera's young son, who's also the son of the Jedi Kanan Jarrus, senses something out in the water.
Before you get to that, we have a very interesting character name drop who you hadn't heard yet.
Only you would care about this, but go for it. Look, this is like the smallest piece of fan service, but fine. Go for it.
My mom's going to have beef with you for saying that.
Look,
anyway,
I love this character as much as everyone else.
For those of us that care, I was very excited to hear this because Hera is talking with Carson, and Carson's like, the New Republic is calling. What do we do? We're going to get in trouble. And Hera's like, we'll figure it out. And so Carson makes a mention who we haven't heard of at this point, saying Senator Organa could only hold us out for so long, or can only make excuses for so long. And so, which is very interesting because... Why are you laughing?
Does this mean that Bale survived? Is he Senator Organa?
Shut up. Anyways.
Thankfully, I don't have to censor rude gestures.
Anyways. So what it is that's obviously Leia. That is Leia as senator. And so if you keep up with the books at this point, I believe this is most likely post-smear campaign. I believe she would have been a candidate for Chancellor of the New Republic, except it came out that Darth Vader's her father, and that kind of ruined her political career because people are like, that's bad. So that's exciting to hear that she's doing work.
And so we cut back to Ahsoka talking with Anakin in the World Between Worlds, and we're just like, us who hate the fan theories, we're eating good. Second week in a row, all the fan theories are shot down.
Good.
People were convinced that this was not Anakin, but literally anyone else.
I didn't think it was going to be Anakin.
So many theories. Look, we don't know 100% what or who this is, but it's not presented as being anything else other than some version of Anakin.
I mean, and when we watched Kenobi, I did not know this was Anakin until after the episode. There is a scene where Kenobi like hallucinates Anakin at a hill like 4 miles away.
Yeah.
Which he wasn't there.
People, man, they really got Anakin on the mind. This is the second show in 2 years where people are like hallucinating Anakin. Everywhere I look, I see him. Anyways, so they start to talk, and Anakin's like, I've got one last lesson to teach you, live or die. I would like we can continue discussing what happened, but I am really not sure what he's trying to teach her. And it might not be possible to fully understand until the show is over.
I just feel like he's been fighting his demons by himself in the World Between Worlds for a long time, and he's finally happy to have someone else.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, continue.
So they have a lightsaber fight, and then he like slashes, they're on this like energy bridge, and he slashes it, and she falls down, and the colors change from blue to red, and it gets all misty, and she stands up, and she's a little girl.
And this is... Oh, sorry. Continue.
In the middle of a Clone War battle sequence.
Played by Ariana Greenblatt, who is... can't remember her name.
Sasha, the young lady from Barbie.
And she's also young Gamora in Infinity War.
That, to me, is the more notable one, because this is a visually very similar character to her playing young Gamora. But that was 5 years ago when Infinity War came out.
The last time I was excited for a Marvel movie.
And so she nails it.
Oh, yeah.
She is a phenomenal
she really got down
OG Ahsoka.
Ashley's intonation.
These sequences, I feel, really capture what you'd expect Clone Wars, Ahsoka, and
Dave Filoni.
So these sequences are visually stunning. I think this is the scenes that people are really gushing over. Is they are clone battles, but they are done entirely in mist, and you really only see the fog of war, clones, and lasers flying around. That's really all you can see, and it's great. It looks awesome.
I made a joke that they have Ahsoka in her later season outfit instead of her first appearance. So we made a joke, completely inaccurate. They didn't put Ahsoka in her crop top and miniskirt. as George Lucas intended. Anyway, yeah, collar tug. Anyways, we are much more big fans of Dave Filoni's design. That is probably one of my favorite.
Just costumes.
That was a good question. I just think it's always funny because everyone always asks Dave Filoni, why did they put Ahsoka in that outfit? And he immediately goes, that was George. Immediately. Because if you look at his initial concept art for Ahsoka, the crop top was not there. Like, it's not there. One thing I wanted to mention was, because we dropped over it, so we do get a Kanan Jarrus live action name drop.
Yes.
Which is
that is somewhat notable because they have not directly mentioned him.
Jason is super force sensitive.
Yes.
Maybe not super
especially
force sensitive.
For someone with zero training, presumably.
Yeah, because he's like, Mom, do you hear that? And Hera's like, no. And he can hear Anakin and Ahsoka fighting. Mm-hmm. He can hear their lightsabers in the war, not the War of the Worlds, the World Between Worlds, which is interesting. So they're going through the scenes, and the first time we see them, it's alluded this is Ahsoka's and Anakin's like first.
Well, quickly, just back up to elaborate on what you just said. The Kanan name drop was simply
that he's Jason's father.
Hu Yang explains to Carter, is that his name? Carson, the other X-Wing pilot, why they're listening to this child saying that he's saying there's someone out in the water. Carson is very confused, and Hu Yang is like, well, his dad's a Jedi. He's like, okay. Carson's like, okay, fine, whatever.
I'm surprised he didn't have some snarky, mean comment about it.
I know.
I was like, man, he's too nice this episode. I guess Sabine's not there to take all his bullying.
Just like, I think it's funny. Like sometimes, like, who are these characters? You got Ahsoka. She's a former Jedi whose master was Anakin, and Hera is a general in the war who's fighting for peace and has a young son. Sabine is a Mandalorian who's trying to find her way. Who's Carson? A nice man.
A nice man.
That's who Carson is.
He's a good man.
So you're continuing with the Ahsoka Anakin scenes.
Yeah, so it's alluded it's their first battle. And, I thought something very interesting went, because after the fight, we see the kind of aftermath. We see Rex in the distance with his pantaloons. And we see Anakin, and they're like, I think, talking with what looked like Twi'leks, actually.
Yes, definitely.
And so Ahsoka is sitting next to a wounded clone trooper.
Who very conveniently has his face wrapped up. Yes, very
convenient. I was like, who did that to this man? And so Anakin comes over, and they have a very interesting conversation of Ahsoka saying they're dead, and she's really struggling to process this, and Anakin's like, it is what it is, bestie. Paraphrasing, of course, he didn't say it. But so they make a very interesting comment, because Ahsoka says, is this what, because Anakin's making a comment, he's like, we used to be keepers of the peace, but now we have to lead. And she makes a comment, she's like, is this all there is? Is this what I'm supposed to do when I have a Padawan? I'm just supposed to teach them how to be a soldier or how to fight. And I thought this was a very interesting exchange, because Anakin said, do you even want a Padawan? Which I think is very interesting, just considering considering there's some very deep history between her and Sabine and their training. And she was like, what do you mean? He's like, teaching is not all it's cracked up to be. So I don't know.
And before we move too quickly past this scene, just the very quiet moment she has when she sits next to this wounded clone, and he just reaches over and touches her hand.
She puts her arm on his, her hand on his arm.
I think this is a phenomenal moment. Yeah. Because it illustrates what's going through her head. Before she even starts talking about what is all this for, that's what's going through her head. Yeah. And I also feel for that clone. Like, that's an incredible little bit of visual storytelling, because you imagine a clone, your average clone probably doesn't have any physical contact with anyone. And stop it. Don't know exactly what you're doing, but stop it. And doesn't expect it. Probably doesn't really have a real concept of like human. Like we do see a lot of clones having human relationships, but there's millions of clones. What?
I'm laughing.
I think you're trying to sabotage this podcast today. We're on possibly one of the most popular pieces of Star Wars media in the last few years, and you're just trying to throw me off. And I don't know, it's like this is what I think Ahsoka especially thought the Jedi were losing, was their empathy for life. And this is her. She probably had done a pretty good job of burying all of this.
Like burying the dead?
The very famous song title track from the final episode of Clone Wars. Thank you.
Nice.
And I think that might be what this. I am still not entirely sure what this whole sequence with Ahsoka and Anakin is getting at, because on the one hand, so ultimately, Anakin just keeps telling her, you have a choice, live or die, which to me implies that she's not doing either, I guess. At least Anakin thinks she's not doing either. And to be fair, we don't know what she's been doing since she left the Sith temple.
Oh, I was like, the Sith!
The Sith
Anyways.
temple in Rebels when she survived fighting
Vibing.
Vader. Other than training Sabine and looking for Thrawn. But like, I think she's doing the right thing. She's trying to stop Thrawn's return. She's trying to stop a war. I think it would make more sense if Ahsoka had been forced into the situation rather than she's propelling all this forward. She is the one after the map. She is the one who wants to destroy the map to stop Thrawn from returning. I think it would make way more sense if Sabine and Hera had pulled her into it and she didn't want to be here and she was more just kind of vibing, doing her own thing, and then had this vision. If that was true, and then she had this vision where Anakin's like, live or die, and she relived these Clone War memories and realized we can't have another war. There's too much at stake. There's too much cost. That would make so much more sense. As far as I can tell, she's doing everything right up until this point. Her relationship with Sabine is tense. We don't know exactly what she
Complicated.
did. Yeah. She's not perfect, but as far as her mission, her objective, she seems to be in the right. She's trying to stop the return of Thrawn. I don't think anyone else realized. Like, it's her, Hera, and Sabine are the three people who are like, we got to stop Thrawn from coming back. So I am not really sure what she's supposed to learn from all of this.
I don't know either.
I'm very confused personally, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with being confused. I am just a little concerned all this has the trappings of being really deep and analytical for the character, but not actually doing anything. I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's kind of interesting because it's like, is this a situation where, because there's a difference when she comes back. She's not as aloof anymore. So is this a situation where... And the whole thing, Anakin is like, you need to choose. It's like a life or death. You need to choose life or death. Is this a situation where she comes out with a new outlook on life and maybe choosing life over duty?
That is interesting. It is possible that if this is indeed Anakin, it's not some sort of projection of her memory of him. It's not like... It's not the Force taking his form. It actually,
is Anakin's spirit, it seems.
It's hard to know for sure, definitively. It's kind of that is ultimately what I like about this whole sequence is it's up for interpretation. It is not spelling anything out for you, and I am greatly appreciative for that. So much modern media just tells you what's going on. I'm appreciative. I walk away from this not really understanding it fully, and I hope by the end of the show, that actually would be good. That would be good if this doesn't make a lot of sense, and the next 3 episodes make it a lot more clear through action, through the themes of the show. As of right now, I'm a little confused. But yes, you're absolutely right. She walks out of this. The performance is different.
Yes.
Rosario Dawson is playing the character differently. So what I would presume, kind of what I'm walking away with, is... It's possible that if that spirit is Anakin, she comes away disagreeing with him. She realized potentially that she was maybe walking down the same path as him, or a similar path of she had become too serious.
She'd become very almost legalistic.
Yeah, yeah.
In the
And
same way, we almost see Luke kind of becoming.
sure. So I think it's possible that interacting with Anakin taught her. Like, it wasn't necessarily that Anakin was teaching I don't know what lesson he was really trying to teach her.
What lessons
I'm really
does
not
he
sure.
ever try to teach?
Like he said, I'm really confused by the live or die thing, honestly. And I am very open to, upon rewatching it, it's more clear. Seeing what comes forward becomes clear. As of right now, I'm not really sure what he was trying to teach her, but I think what she walked away with potentially was life is important. That what the most significant moment for me in the whole flashback sequence is her having her nice little moment with the injured clone, and then talking with Anakin about there was so much loss, and he says to her, "That's part of it. There's a price to be paid," and to me, I think she probably walks away with this, hopefully with a renewed sense of life is valuable, and she then. To not skip too far forward, she then connects with the Purgles. And for the viewers who aren't, I know we have listeners who just don't watch the shows. So to give you an idea of then what happens, they return to the bridge, like the World Between Worlds light bridge that they were at in the beginning. They fight again. Anakin now has a red lightsaber, which is very visually interesting. And he's like momentarily glitching kind of between Anakin and Vader, which is also very cool. And his eyes are now Sith yellow, and his skin is yellow. Did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I had a couple things before we got to that. There was one thing I noticed. It was in that first battle when they're kind of having the conversation of like, what is the point of this? And Anakin's like, war is what it is. She's like, what if I don't want that? And he makes a comment. He goes, then you'll die. I thought of the last time we've seen Ahsoka and Anakin Vader interact, which was at the end of, I think she says, what if I don't want that? Or something. And he goes, then you'll die. When she realizes at the end of Twilight of the Apprentice, Part 2, that Anakin is Vader. That's her realization. She says, I won't leave you. She's like, I won't leave you again. And Vader says, then you will die. And it was just, I don't know if it was supposed to be a parallel, but it made me think of it a little bit with Anakin's intonation and the way he was talking. Just very similar. We missed a very funny part where the memory changes. As the memory changes, we go back to Hera, the X-Wings, as they're trying to find whatever the heck Jason is sensing, which we know is Ahsoka vibing in the ocean. Hu Yang makes a comment. Hu Yang is with Hera, and Hera asks Hu Yang what Ahsoka's master was like.
Yeah.
There's a very heavy pause. Hu Yang says, intense.
I lost it. I thought that was so funny.
So funny.
Because like you see him wanting to say he sucked. he was awful. And but also very powerful. Like this is a practical droid. I don't know if we've fully discussed that on the pod yet.
Yes.
Hu Yang is a animatronic a lot of the time. Zero expression, other than his eyes. His eyes are slightly expressive. The rest of his face is not. You can see this droid thinking.
The gears
it's hilarious.
are turning.
It's great timing, great writing. David Tennant's performance is phenomenal, and it's a funny little moment for sure.
It is. The memory then switches to one a lot of us recognize, having watched season 7 of Clone Wars, because it's a different battle, and it is Siege of Mandalore. We see Pre Vizsla here.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's the black and red with all the horns. That's why I was like, what? That was me. I was like, that's Pre Vizsla.
Pre Vizsla,
before he was post Vizsla, I think. No, sorry, not Pre Vizsla. I'm ashamed of my. That was Gar Saxon, I believe.
We also
nope, I'm wrong.
No, Gar Saxon died in Rebels, didn't he?
You're right.
Well, Rebels after this, so. Just to kind of add some more description of this,
It's not.
We see Ahsoka killing Mandalorians, which I'm now realizing might contribute to her relationship with Sabine in some way. And also in this sequence, we get this great wide shot where you see Anakin silhouetted by all the mist, and a shot goes overhead and explodes in the distance, but it's centered up on him. And that explosion flashes, and he looks like Vader for a second. And that doesn't necessarily sound fascinating, but just like this is all just visually so immersive, I feel. It's just really pulling me in. It's a great way to capture kind of a dream sequence of a vision that Ahsoka's having. It feels like memory. It feels like trauma. And the way Ahsoka is also herself centered on the screen with explosions silhouetting her, it's some excellent visual storytelling, I think. It really creates a sense of atmosphere and puts you in Ahsoka's shoes, which is for the first time in this show. A lot of people have complained this show is called Ahsoka, but it hasn't really felt like her show. These sequences really take you into her experience, for sure.
So I actually don't know if that Red Mandalorian has a name. I always thought it was like a Saxon of some form, but it's because it's not Pre-Vizsla. Because he's
definitely one of Maul's followers.
Yeah, that's my bad. There's too many Mandos and too cool armor with no names. But so live action Siege of Mandalore, and you know what? I'm actually really excited that they alluded to it, but they didn't just recreate the Siege of Mandalore in live action, because that's what a lot of people see. They're like, people were thinking they're gonna recreate the Ahsoka and Vader duel from Rebels. Stop doing that. There's no reason to recreate the animated sequences in live action. It doesn't improve them. It doesn't make them better. That's what a lot of people were hoping for in Kenobi. Like, we're going to get to see twin sons again. It's like, no, we don't need to see it. We saw it once. It was gorgeous then. It doesn't need to do it now.
Twin Sons being the episode of Rebels where
Season 4.
Obi-Wan kills Maul.
Yes. So we also get a fun voice line from Tamara Morrison as Rex. Very short. But we thought this was really funny because Ahsoka and Anakin are talking about, and they make a comment about the disaster legacy they are a part of. And technically, theirs is called the disaster lineage. Yoda, Dooku, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. Obviously, the disaster being Anakin and Ahsoka, and now by extension, Sabine. Anyways, but she makes a comment about all this.
Sabine, you're part of a long, storied, proud lineage of screw-ups.
Yep. Qui-Gon's good.
Well, he brought Anakin, so
True, he did bring Anakin.
From one perspective, you could blame everything on him.
True. But so Ahsoka makes a comment about all the war and death, and Anakin says, "Is that what this is about?" And I did see a tweet about this. I did not know the context, but I sent it to...
you saw the tweet before?
I did.
You saw the episode?
Before. Anakin, is that what this is about? Skywalker, by the way. And it's listing all of his crimes in a little scroll. It was really funny.
We also get interaction in here that I think is notable between Anakin and Ahsoka, where he says something like, you have all of my knowledge. I taught you everything. And I made you a warrior. And she says, and that's all? And he said, but you're more than that because I'm more than that. And that to me alludes to her ultimately disagreeing with him. That she does learn something in all this, but it's not whatever lesson Anakin's trying to teach her, that is not what she walks away with. Because I think she decides to be different than Anakin, ultimately. This is her final moment of deciding, I am not Anakin.
The first canonical entrance of a gray Jedi?
No. Look, I think the concept of Grey Jedi is interesting, but that is not this. This is Sabine being herself.
No. Sabine?
Yeah. Like, Ahsoka is being herself and trying to make a Sabine. This is ultimately about Sabine, in my opinion.
Yes, I thought you were mixing up names again. So the memory ends, and this is where, like you said, the fight starts, and he's like glitching between, and you had a really funny comment here. We see Anakin's yellow eyes. And Cameron, you just said, he's got scurvy. And so they fight back and forth. Ahsoka's disarmed, but she manages to turn Anakin's blade against her. And I don't know if this was just the lighting, but it looked for a second as they're both illuminated by the red lightsaber because she's holding it up to Anakin's neck. Mm-hmm. Her eyes almost look a little yellow here.
Oh, well, I've got it up. Let me take a look.
Just a little bit. Just a hair. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. She looked mad, though. Like, she could have killed him, I think, right then and there. Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Exorcised him.
I don't really see any color change in her eyes. Oh, man. Oh, actually, I might see it. Let me pause it. Man, it is.
It's subtle.
Subtle, but good cat.
But I don't know. I saw it and I was like,
ooh, you're right, dude. You are totally right. There it is.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah, you nailed it. Nice.
That's
very nice.
What's the timestamp on that?
That is at.
So everyone can know I'm right. Anyway, I'm kidding.
25:18 into the episode.
But yeah, it's where
because she does it. She does a little like push in. So
yes.
the lightsaber comes closer to her face right at that moment.
Yes,
so it is hard to tell.
Just a little bit of an
her eyes are definitely orange right in that second.
Yep.
That's a good catch.
And so then. But she doesn't kill him. Mm-hmm. She, I think, just kind of pushes him away or disarm. Or no,
she throws the lightsaber off the edge and she says, "I choose to live."
And so it actually takes a moment for this Anakin apparition. He looks stunned.
Yeah.
That she did not kill him. Maybe that's what maybe he's like, please kill me so I can go back to the Force Ghost heaven. I'm trapped here. I don't know. But he looks shocked. And it takes him a couple long seconds to go back to Anakin, to switch from Vader to Anakin. And he goes, "There's hope for you yet." Mm-hmm. And then disappears, refusing to elaborate.
So I think I'm starting to come together with maybe what this is implying is that in these wars, in all these journeys and all this stuff, it's very easy to lose yourself, to not be the person. Ahsoka is a character that's defined ultimately mostly by her optimism and her compassion for others. And I think she had lost a lot of that. Even though she's doing all the right things, she's being the right person, her herself was lost. And the final shot on here that I'm now seeing playing in front of me is the bridge starts reflecting under her.
Yes.
And there's her own reflection meets up. Like the bridge is slowly coming closer to her in the reflection and it meets up with her.
And maybe this apparition was trying to force Ahsoka into what could be seen as a black and white option. Only two options and she chose a third. Maybe there's this idea that the apparition was like, well, either she dies or I die. And I don't know. I don't know what apparition Anakin is thinking.
Yeah.
But that definitely, when he says you choose, you at the beginning, the proposition, you choose life or death. And he's kind of threatening, so I think it's the obvious choices would be she has to kill him to live. She doesn't. She chooses this like third option of we can both make our way out of here before Anakin dips off into the ether. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So I think ultimately this is about her true self living, choosing to, because you're absolutely right. She comes out of this, we talked about this a few minutes ago. She comes out of this with a very different performance. And that leads her to the solution to their problem.
And we'll get to this. The way she greeted Jason.
Very warm.
Not what I was expecting.
Yeah, and as I thought about it later on, yeah, so just like we were talking earlier about how, I think actually we're off Mac on this, a lot of people really, really love this episode so far, and we're going to speculate as to why people like this episode. I cannot assume people like this episode for anything outside of what we just talked about. It's literally half the episode. And that half the episode is cutting back to Hera and Huyang and Jason looking for them. So ultimately, it's like a third of this episode's runtime is spent in this Anakin Ahsoka sequence, which I'm not criticizing, but I don't want
what everyone's talking about.
I don't want this podcast to be too reactionary. This podcast is about our opinions. But I do think in this, what's fun about watching a show week to week is engaging with the larger community. And while I'm glad people are like, I'm not going to complain about people being happy. I'm glad people like this. That's great. I'd much rather the fan base be happy
Star
than
Wars is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mr. Incredible me.
But I do get worried when people potentially like things for the wrong reason, because then that can turn into is so I guess I'll say what I think. I think people only like this because Anakin's in it. Is what my fear. And because it's pretty. And that's totally legitimate. If you like it because the visuals are strong, I think that's great, because you should enjoy visuals. It's a visual medium. But I fear people will then return to this sometime down the road, whether it's next week or a month from now or a year from now, and be disappointed by it because that initial joy of seeing a character you love will be gone.
In the Clone Wars armor, which people have been begging for. People were begging for that in Kenobi.
Yeah, Anakin in his Clone Wars armor. I think this episode is great because there's visual storytelling going on, and it's being somewhat cryptic, and it's doing some character work. And Ahsoka, and like we talked about, Rosario Dawson's performance changes in this episode for the better. All those are great reasons to love this episode. I am concerned that a lot of people are enjoying this just because it's replicating Clone Wars. To me, that's not it's not most of the episode. If that was the whole episode, I was like, okay, you really enjoyed this because they replicated Clone Wars. That's cool. That's a third of this episode. Yeah. So, anyways, tangent over.
I almost made this comment during while we were watching it, but I held back. I'm glad I did. It's not a bad comment, but I actually made a different comment. I thought it was funnier at the time. But when the bridge comes up, turns into a reflection, and the water comes up around her, I initially made a Pirates of the Caribbean 3 joke. Said she's going up to go down. But my other thought was baptism.
Okay.
My almost thought was, did I make a reverse baptism joke?
You did.
I did. But my thought was this, it's like jokingly, she's being baptized. She's been brought out of the water. Her demeanor's changed. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how. But there's some definitely resurrecting new life.
Sure.
Imagery referencing, especially with the way that she's acting post. And
she wears a very different costume, and it's very light. And you call it Ahsoka the White, which is, I mean, like, you're drawing parallel. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but it's very Gandalf himself changes quite a bit when he comes back to life in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, when he becomes Gandalf the White. And so you have something like that. And I think a lot of people, and including myself actually, thought that this episode would fully confirm her role as the quote-unquote daughter in the Jedi mythos.
Oh, yeah, because there's a lot. I told this to you last week. People were thinking this Anakin apparition was going to be the son from that Mortis trio.
So while the show has heavily implied through the cartoons that she is a embodiment of an element of the Force known as the daughter, I think this is her change post Vision is further feeding into that. Obviously, you would have no concept of that whatsoever just watching this show. But if you already know that's part of her ongoing narrative, that is who Ahsoka is in the larger universe, this feels like another step down that road for sure. Because she is obviously even more connected to the Force now than she was prior. I think, again, as I talk about this episode more, the more I like it, the more I'm seeing what's going on. A big part of this show so far that I really love is that there are parallels between Ahsoka and Baylan, and both her relationship, Ahsoka's relationship with Sabine, and Baylan's relationship with Shin.
I love Baylan. The more
Phenomenal
I see
character.
Baylan,
Absolutely.
top tier man.
And Baylan, I very much feel like uses the Force as a tool. He does keep talking.
He's not quite Sithy.
No, he's definitely not a Sith, but he's definitely not a Jedi, which is, again, Ahsoka. What's one of the first things Baylan says? Not a Jedi. Ahsoka very clearly makes it clear that she is not a Jedi. There's a lot of similarities between these two characters, which I think is really cool. I'm always a big fan for there being parallels between the hero and the villain. He, to me, is one of those Force users who uses the Force as a tool. He does not have reverence for it. He is making these weird comments. I just yesterday rewatched last week's episode. He makes weird comments towards serving the greater good.
He says a lot of weird mystical stuff.
It's very unclear what he thinks that greater good is. I don't know if he thinks their New Republic is evil, or I don't know.
Maybe he's just anti-government.
I think maybe he thinks there has to be war, so he would rather it be Thrawn than something else. I don't know. I think last episode would have been better served by him explaining himself a little bit, because he's trying to bring back Thrawn and start a war. And Ahsoka's trying to stop him. And he's like, we didn't have to come to this, but no other way. Well, maybe if you had explained yourself to Ahsoka, maybe try to reason with her. She might not agree with you, but give her a chance to disagree with you. You're not explaining from her perspective, you're just a mercenary.
Is he a product of, because he's a Jedi. He is a former Jedi. Is he a product of the Clone Wars Jedi mentality that they have to be in control?
Well,
this is just me.
He clearly doesn't want power. He doesn't want. He said he's not going to start the war.
Order.
Yeah, I guess maybe he thinks Thrawn would bring order to the entire galaxy because the New Republic is not doing a great job. That's all speculation. Hopefully, we'll learn. My point is, he doesn't seem to have any desire to follow the quote unquote will of the Force that the Jedi are very focused on, and he's mostly just using the Force as a tool to his own means. I think it's very possible Ahsoka was doing somewhat the same until this episode. And this experience in the World Between Worlds has put her more in connection with the larger Force that leads to her communicating with the Purgle and having a much lighter view on things. It's all very visual. It's all very implied. None of this is definitive, but as we talk about it, that's my takeaway, I think.
Yeah. So they rescue Ahsoka. They go back. She got a new outlook on life. She sees Jason and she gives him a hug. That is a warm hug for someone who's been crossing her arm and visibly closed off from every other character this entire time. That was I was like, whoa!
And again, some more visual storytelling. She wakes up to a sunrise, which is a very common symbol for the start of something new. Yeah, absolutely. This again, very beautiful scene. It's very simple, but she's laying in the Ghost, which is Hera's ship from Rebels, and the sun is beaming in on her, and it wakes her up. And we joked about it, but her head is naked. She's not wearing her headset. And we joked about it, but that's again an element of rebirth, an element of becoming new. She is just herself again, which is, I think, I really, it's very easy to read too much into things, but with an episode that is so uncharacteristically cryptic for Star Wars, that is so open for interpretation, I think the show is asking us to read more into things. I am now realizing we have not discussed who directed this episode.
Dave Filoni.
It's Filoni's episode again.
It's Filoni, of course.
So this is definitely his baby. I can see why, because I was thinking, why would you not direct the entire show yourself? And I think there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but I could see why you'd want to focus on this episode. I can see him writing this whole series and thinking, I need to focus on the season premiere and this episode. So, very good stuff. But yeah, so she greets young Jason, and
she thanks him for saving her.
Yeah, that's a cool scene. And I realized, thinking about it later, he's the only Force user she knows. I mean, she's the only Force user he knows.
Yeah.
And
outside of hearing about Ezra and his father.
So I can see where he would have a lot of admiration for her. He would want to spend a lot of time. He wants
to be a Jedi.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. Oh, we skipped over earlier. There was a really fun interaction with him and Hu Yang, of him trying to get Hu Yang to train him.
No, that just happened.
Oh, that is the next sequence. Okay.
Because what is he? Oh, does he ask her? He asks her a question, and is it about training or something? He asks her a question, and she deflects and goes, Hu Yang, show him the ship. You want to see the Jedi ship? Which is what you do with young children when they ask you a question you want to answer. You go, distraction.
Well, if you're Yoda, you just disappear into the Force.
Anyways, disappears, refuses to elaborate. Anyway, so Hu Yang takes Jason to show him the training room, and he's like, will you train me? And Hu Yang says, no. Which is funny.
Also, another funny note, Ahsoka comes out of the ship wearing pretty much just a quilt, and she looks like she's risen from her from her abode looking for pumpkin spice lattes.
Okay. Okay. Anyways,
And so the Purgle kind of emerge. Is there something before
yes,
that?
yeah. So the Purgle emerge, but as has been kind of the overarching quote unquote threat, the New Republic is not happy with Hera's decision to go out unmanned, which is very interesting. How controlling they're being.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a new government. They can't really let people slack on by because it's going to set expectations. Anyways, so Carson's like, what do we do? Because Hera has been speaks with Mon Mothma via HoloNet, and she's like, I can't help you because she went against orders. And the Senate is pretty much going to order Hera back. I'm guessing to put her, I don't know if it's necessarily on like trial, court-martialed, but they're not happy with her. They are ready to like interrogate her for why she took I guess a flight for something that is probably, as what they're seeing, is just a way to find Ezra instead of Thrawn. I mean, it's both. And so Mon Mothma is like, Hera, you have to bring Ahsoka back with you, because she's like, do you have evidence of Thrawn? No. Do you have what's her face in custody? No. You're going to have Ahsoka with you to speak on your behalf, or she's going to like get fired. That's probably where the court martial is going to come in, I'm guessing. And then we see the Purgle. Mm-hmm. And so we have this plan. Ahsoka's holding the cut map. And so this is where, they're trying to figure out. She holds the map and she senses the Force memory from it, and finds out that Baylan and Shin took Sabine with them. So probably she's alive, or at least she was when they left the planet. And so now they're like, well, we don't have a map. How can we figure this out? And the Purgle show up. Our favorite spacey whale boys. Cameron, you made a really funny comment.
Okay.
The real map was the friends we made along the way. And those friends are space whales. So they go up, and then the New Republic, part of the New Republic fleet shows up.
I was going to interject here about this. So there's been this running subplot to the show so far of Hera kind of bumping up against the New Republic leadership. It's also very much an element of The Mandalorian as well. And I'm sitting here wondering whether these sequences are really necessary to the plot of Ahsoka, if they're too much the overarching Star Wars narrative bleeding too much into this show. And that makes me think about, okay, well, if you have Thrawn trying to come back and start a war, if that's presumably going to happen. Like, I assume Thrawn's going to make it back. And I presume we're going to get some sort of, even if it's not a full-on war.
Thrawn!
Yeah. If we end up getting some sort of battle even between the New Republic and whatever forces Thrawn is able to accumulate, I guess the Imperial Remnant, I'm now realizing, do we know when the Battle of Jakku is? Is that before this, or is it later?
It is before this. Okay. I am fairly certain. It's in the Aftermath trilogy, which I think takes almost immediately afterwards. I have those books. I haven't read them.
Jakku being the planet from The Force Awakens, and all of the scattered Star Destroyers and such are...
It is the Empire's last stand.
Yeah, exactly. So
under
I didn't know
the name Empire.
That would have been an interesting battle for Thrawn's final battle, but that's okay. Nonetheless,
well,
gosh dang it, I said it.
I think the First Order was kind of a rumor up until they destroyed not Coruscant, TM, the other New Republic planet, whatever it was. Yeah. I think they were kind of oddly enough, under the radar, or at least not necessarily a threat, because this is this is not to delve too off into. This is the problem that Leia has. General Leia. Put some respect on her name. General Organa has to deal with, because she's like, they're back. And the Republic's like,
yeah.
And they don't realize that until Starkiller
until it's too late.
Snipes them out of the universe.
And I guess what I was getting at was, I don't know how necessary it is for us to, this whole New Republic being messed up subplot is, it does maybe somewhat, so you have, we were just talking about Balin Skull wanting to bring back Thrawn, to me, all this led to me thinking, I don't know exactly what Thrawn will be. Because in Rebels, his motivation was to serve the Emperor. If he comes back, I guess it kind of almost feels out of character for him to want to be the new Emperor.
I don't know how true this is, but I think this might be... There's a plot line in Legends, I think, of the Yuuzhan Vong, who are a warmongering species from another galaxy that try to invade the Star Wars galaxy, and it's a big old conflict. And I think that is where Thrawn's return is post-Empire, to defeat that. But I saw some, not to get too off into the discourse, saw some interesting discourse on the conversation on, you have the Empire, the big bad Empire, they are the bad guys, they're not good. But did Legends do too much in trying to humanize this obviously...
genocidal maniac, maybe?
Yeah, this obvious bad guy, like, oh, actually, they were really the good guys trying to protect you, which is an interesting, thought process. But anyways, that's what some people are thinking that's going to bring this, which, I mean, if that's what they do, cool. But we don't know.
So I went way out prediction level. It's not really relevant to this episode, but I guess ultimately the main benefit there might be of having all this New Republic stuff is it complicates whatever happens next. Whenever Thrawn comes back, Hera, it will not be easy to defeat him because the New Republic themselves they don't really have an army. They aren't really stable. They're not really unified. That is if we're looking way bigger picture, the narrative of all this, that was a huge element of Rebels, and Rogue One was trying to unify the Rebel Alliance. I think that's a fun element of new Star Wars. You get the name Rebel Alliance from the original trilogy, but you don't, from your perspective, if you see the original trilogy of movies, you think the Rebel Alliance is just a unified group of rebels. We now know that is farthest from the truth.
They were struggle busting their way through.
And it's so logical. It's a great choice. I don't know where this began. I don't know if this was an expanded universe originally, if this is a Disney creation, but this concept of if you had rebel cells from all over the galaxy fighting against the Empire, yes, they have a common enemy, but their personal ideals, their reasons for fighting, their way of fighting, they don't even unify until the Death Star. Death Star is the thing that really ultimately, because they're not even fully on for trying to stop the Death Star because they don't all believe it exists until they know it exists. My point being is it took a lot for the Rebel Alliance to come together because you have, and it's funny if you really think about it, the Rebel Alliance is a mirror image of the Confederacy, the Separatists. They're the Confederacy. They call them that in the Clone Wars.
Oh, that Confederacy.
Yeah.
I was
not the real one.
I'm sorry. I was just like
the CIS.
For those of you that
the Confederacy of Independent Systems.
See my face. I thought of real world history, and I was like, "Whoa, where are we going with this?"
No.
The Separatists. The Star Wars one.
This Confederacy of Independent Systems.
Yes.
But they were unified because they were corrupt. I think they were, even though they were probably right to think that the Republic was somewhat tyrannical. Ultimately they were right because the Republic was too powerful and could be easily turned into an empire, which is what happened. The Rebel Alliance was right in unifying against the Empire, but struggled to do so. So it makes a lot of sense. My point is, it makes a lot of sense that once they formed into a new republic, once the Empire was gone, those problems would not just go away. You have lots of different motivations, and then you also have, what this show is focusing on is these senators who were senators under the Empire. And they are not necessarily imperial, but they do not have they don't have a stake in this new empire, this new republic. They just are around, and their power continues. And while you do have people like Mon Mothma and Hera and Leia fought to create this new republic, you have a lot of people, a lot of senators who did not fight to make this new republic. None of this is relevant to the show of Ahsoka, but when we get our inevitable battle between the New Republic and Thrawn's forces, it's complicated. It's going to be like, well, we definitely don't want Thrawn to win, but the New Republic's not great either. And even if you do believe in the New Republic, which I think anyone should, because they're better than the Empire, they're what we have, and you have to allow it time to build and improve. They are going to struggle against a unified enemy. The Imperial Remnant is very unified, especially once you have Thrawn back. They're going to be all ready to go, man.
Yeah.
And the New Republic's not going to be ready for it because they don't think it exists. They think that the Imperial Remnant is scattered and ununified.
And they're under their noses.
So while I think they might be spending a little too much time on all of this in this show, I think it will pay off in a really interesting way down the road.
Probably Dave Filoni's movie.
Yes, absolutely.
So the fleet shows up. The X-Wings, Carson, Teva, and the others go out to distract them. And the New Republic fleet is like, you guys are going to have to come with us or you're going to get stripped of your rank. And Carson, I thought this is some kind of funny banter. Anyways, he's ordered by, I don't know who this commander is, to like, what is their mission? He's like, it's classified. She's like, what is their mission? He's like, okay, but you're not going to believe me. And it cuts because we see the Ghost and Ahsoka ship flying amongst the Purgles. They're just flying until they meet the big one, the biggest whale in the pod.
I think in this part, Huyang says something like, my indicators are telling me that whale is bigger than the other ones, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He says, up ahead, I think that one is... Oh, I lost it. Sorry, the subtitle went away. Apologies. I really hate that you can only skip back 10 seconds. Up ahead, I think that is one of the larger ones.
Yeah. So Ahsoka goes out on the wings. There's something on the wing, and that is Ahsoka. And she's like force speaking with the Purgle. That's probably what she is. We don't know what's being said. Jason and Hera watching from the Ghost, and there's a cute little moment where Jason's like, Mom, it's like the stories you told me, which is like, which is, of course, would be the stories of Ezra and, of course, Kanan. And Hera makes a comment. She's like, yep, they saved us, the Purgle, at the end of season 4. And so the Purgle opens its mouth. Ahsoka hops back in the ship, and they just drive the ship into its mouth, Jonah style. My thought was, Ezra's inside. He's been living like Jonah for years. And so, like I said, we don't know what is conversed. I did see a really funny comment that said, rip the Purgle teeth, because in Rebels, they actually had like teeth, like animal teeth, and now they have a baleen, which is a little more usual for whales. Quick whale fun fact. If a whale has baleen, it is a filter feeder. So that implies that the Purgles are filter feeders instead of carnivores, since they don't have like teeth now. Or maybe there's like different like minor species. Anyways, they fly into the mouth. Carson, it jumps back to Carson. Carson has explained that they're talking with the whales, and the New Republic fleet is like, what is going on? And he's like, and Hera chimes in. She's like, hey, fleet, you're going to want to get out of the way. And you just see like 40 of these Purgles coming forward. And there's panic we see some panic in the New Republic fleet commander, because Purgle are nightmares for ships because they don't adhere to the hyperspace lanes. There's so many times where ships just collide with a Purgle at light speed and it's eviscerated. They are super dangerous. I think this is like the equivalent of what hitting a moose at 100 miles per hour in your four-door sedan would be like. I think that is actually the best way you can relate it. You would die, and probably it too, but you would be dead.
Oh no.
Anyways, the Purgles go around them, and they start powering up.
And we have pretty much a reaction shot of every single character.
Oh, the music is beautiful.
The music's incredible. Kevin Kiner, who did Kevin Kiner do Clone Wars as well?
Yes.
He did Rebels. he is killing it. And
He's done Bad Batch too.
A major element of why you would include a sequence like this is just wonder.
So
like the reason one of the biggest reasons why you create a fantasy science fiction universe is to give the audience a sense of wonder.
The scale in this shot.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's just fun to look at. It's just a pretty sequence. All of the characters are awestruck by the sight of these giant space whales flying around them.
Yeah,
and it's a very cool, slow moment.
We even see the unnamed X-Fighter pilots who are like floored. I liked that. I was like, I love this little shot. This is cute.
Yeah. These, I think, both of us, especially myself, was really off-put by the slower pace of the first 3 episodes. The slower pace has really paid off the last 2 episodes. The middle of this show, this is normally when most shows suck. Most streaming series, it's the middle few episodes that really sag.
Okay, you can see Mando season 3.
Yeah, but these 2 episodes have really benefited from taking their time, showing you things at their own pace, allowing things to be drawn out. It's really working for me.
Yeah, and so then they start powering up, and they jump into light speed, and they take Ahsoka and Huyang with them. And so there's like this unspoken thought that these whales are probably going to take them at least close to where Thrawn is, or at least wherever they took Ezra, which I mean is the same place. They leave Hera to get court-martialed and arrested, I guess.
Yeah, and also to continue the thematic element of this sequence, Huyang, so they're in the whale, and Huyang says to Sabine something like...
To Ahsoka.
Yes, sorry. To Ahsoka. You're certain they know where Sabine was taken? And she says, I have no idea. And he's like, what? And he's like, no idea. And he says they could take us anywhere. And she says, that's better than going nowhere. She's clear, and she's smiling a lot, and she's just super laid back. Man, whatever she's smoking, I want some. She is... easy going, man.
And you made a good comment. You spend 5 minutes with Anakin. And this is the idea that comes to mind. So that's where it ends.
So good.
So the sound the Purgles make, their little like power up noises. That's the noise Athena makes right before she gets the zoomies. It's the engine starting noise. Yeah, that was it. Good ending. Man, I was just like, honorable last quote that I had written down from you. I just realized, that, quote, Cameron, almost said your last name. Quote, I just realized Jason is a homeschool kid. End quote.
Great episode. Really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed unpacking it and trying to figure out what it means. I'm glad that very rare that Star Wars is this open to interpretation, I think, which is really great. And retroactively, I mean, this is one of the most difficult decisions I think you can make when doing a character's story is in what direction are they going to change, and a character needing to loosen up is one of the toughest ones to execute, because until that character loosens up, their character just seems boring and closed off. So everything we've seen from Ahsoka up until this point, she has been very tightly wound, live action Ahsoka, very tightly wound, very
even when she's with Luke.
Yeah, and that's the closest we get to her behaving like normal Ahsoka. I mean, to be fair, we haven't seen her a ton, but even in the first few episodes of this season, she's just been very straightforward, very matter of fact, and we are now seeing her transform. I think it's a little unfortunate that we had to spend so much time with her and really not being Ahsoka, but it's nice that she is what we expect from her again, and in the best of ways, I think. And excited to see where the rest of the show goes, for sure. I think this show has gone in directions I didn't expect. It is a bit of a bummer that this show is very clearly going to end with a massive cliffhanger. Mostly centered around Thrawn. But at the very least, we are finally getting some Ahsoka character development. That's what I think we wanted the whole time.
Let's go, baby. That's what I've been talking about. That's what I've been waiting for.
Did you know that is a quote from Zoolander?
No.
That is... You are quoting, and the meme is of Critical, the video game YouTuber, but he is quoting Zoolander.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Anyways, great episode. If I'm trying to figure out how I would suggest this to someone. Overall, if listening to this podcast is making you interested in watching Ahsoka,
Do it.
I would.
Do it.
My suggestion would be to look up an essentials list of Rebels.
Yes, that's what I've been recommending to people.
See, I don't recommend all of, like, if you really like Rebels, you want to watch the whole thing. I like Rebels. I like Rebels a lot.
I just gave Cameron a shocked face for dramatic effect.
I would hate for someone to not get to the end of the Rebels show because they got burned out. It is 75 episodes. It's a lot. I recently showed it to my wife. I really wanted her to be able to watch Ahsoka with us. She actually watched it with us today, which was a lot of fun.
There's probably you could watch you can look up a list of the most essential episodes that will at least get you to the point of watching Ahsoka, and then you can go back and put it on while you do other things.
The only reason I feel like I was able to get her to that point, and she really enjoyed watching Rebels, and she's actually herself gone back and watched the episode we skipped.
Yeah.
That's my point. Is I started to get very selective in the episodes we watched.
Wondering how quickly you got, because you were like, "Oh, we watched the Honorable Ones episode," because you texted me at like 12 a.m. and I responded back immediately, and then not like I caught like 2 3 weeks later, you're like, "Oh, you texted me, we're watching Jedi Knight," and I was like, "Man, y'all fast."
And so I honestly think you can go into Clone Wars. The only thing you need to know from Ahsoka's perspective is that she was Anakin's Padawan and she left the Jedi Order.
Because she was framed for a crime she did not commit, and the Jedi Order exiled her and then went, "Oopsie whoopsie. Sorry, do you want to come back?" She said, "No, screw that."
And you can just go into Rebels with that knowledge. Find some sort of list online of the essential episodes from Rebels.
Probably a video YouTube essay out there too.
I think Rebels is really worth watching. I don't think
absolutely, yes.
I don't know if Ahsoka really works. I mean, the show Ahsoka really works if you haven't seen Rebels. But this episode is great.
Hearing from my friends who have not watched Rebels, they were super confused within the first episode. They're like, no idea what's going on.
And I think while this episode of Ahsoka and Anakin interacting really obviously builds off of Clone Wars, I think if you know who Ahsoka is as a character by the way she's developed in Rebels, and you know who Anakin as a character, you know who Anakin is as a character from the movies, these scenes will still really work for you. And so highly recommend, with a caveat of you do need to understand what's going on to appreciate it. But I think if you like Star Wars, you will enjoy this for sure. And that takes us into our final segment of the show, which is our meme minute, but it's longer than a minute. Is it longer than a parsec? We'll see how many parsecs it takes them to get to the other galaxy. Is it longer than a meme astrosecond, which is the Transformers? For some reason, every once in a while, I feel like I need to explain everything, like if our listeners
and you make
new.
this longer every time.
Is it bigger than a Purgle? Every week we share memes with one another, and one of the memes, secretly, each of us made. And at the end of the segment, each of us will guess which meme the other one made. We are currently both 6-3 on the season, and we'll see how today goes. Rachel, what's your first meme?
Obligatory, not a meme.
Obligatory, not a meme.
I just saw this image and I thought it was really funny.
That's so good.
This is,
oh man,
I believe it's the HasLab Unicron figure, which is like $600, and it is the size of a 2-year-old. And so what someone has done, someone has put it in a stroller and is walking around with it. It's very cute, very large. It transforms, FYI, into ball form. But yeah.
This is a very simple meme. It's just an image of a Star Destroyer, a Clone Wars Star Destroyer, and it just says 2,340,000 tons of pure democracy.
Hey, that's actually, I think, a Venator class. That's a Republic?
Yes.
Anyways,
which the Lego recently released, and people have been freaking out about.
They just released this. So I actually have some TikToks.
Okay, go for it.
I got 3 TikToks. This says Star Wars fans and Star Wars Rebels fans, and this is a clip from Futurama. It's the image of Ahsoka in War Between... Dadgummit, I'm going to say War of the Worlds how many times? World Between Worlds.
Hey, Bender, what are we doing in this bad neighborhood?
Shut up, Square!
Star Wars fan, Clone Wars fans, and Rebels fans.
Yeah.
This meme is directly targeted at Rachel's interests. It's got now I'm gonna totally forget their names. The lions from Lion King. I cannot. Simba. See, I'm getting Ahsoka and Simba's names, and Sabine, and okay, Simba and Mufasa. They're sitting looking at over the Pride Lands, and it says, "Everything the light touches is our kingdom." But what about that shadowy place? And then the angle turns, and Mufasa is also Darth Vader. You don't know the power of the dark side.
Ooh, that's cursed.
This is especially funny because both are voiced by the same man.
Cursed.
And I thought that was funny.
There is a TikTok trend of like applying scenes to audio, and this is a scene of between quote unquote Jason and Chopper.
Wind is ever trying to tell us something.
No.
Oh, I love this
Wind is
audio.
ever trying to tell us something and we don't know how to hear it anymore.
I just want you to stop saying odd.
Which is the scene where Jason is like, "Mom, you can hear things in the water," and Chopper is not having it.
Someone did the exact same thing with Ezra and Thrawn hanging out in the other universe.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite memes. Thrawn has been living in a horrible, horrible state of mind. He's probably like,
You may have seen this meme format around. It says, "Visualizing in the mirror the man I want to become," and you have a man solemnly standing in a mirror, but people have been putting different things in the mirror. Who's in the mirror, Rachel?
John Turturro.
Specifically,
Agent Simmons
from the Transformers films.
It would have been funny
And
if they...
I think it's very specifically the moment from the movie where he's like, politely, back off.
Yeah. My last TikTok, and I'm finally getting the images.
Okay.
Star Wars Rebels fans, after 4 episodes of Ahsoka, it's any picture of Callus and Zeb.
And the Joker's labeled Dave Filoni. I am pretty disappointed. Like, I don't like. I think the show's really good.
You're disappointed?
Look, only because Zeb is in The Mandalorian season 3. Why put him?
I swear, if we get Mando before we get Zeb in this show,
why would you
I would
put
be
Zeb
so
in
upset.
Mando and not Ahsoka? That's bizarre. Unless he's getting his own show. Or they're getting their own. It's going to be a freaking, oh my gosh, they're going to get a sitcom. It's going to be
2.5 Men.
Callus is the fish out of water on the Lasat planet. What's the name? What? Larasan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I know that automatically? Yes, I did.
How many memes do you have? Pure silence.
9.
Oh my gosh. Okay, do 2 of them.
Okay. So this is the image of where we see Anakin at the very end of the last episode when she turns around and it says with the logo, "The Return of the King."
Saw that one a
Lord of
lot.
the Rings.
Absolutely. Like every time. No matter if any Star Wars thing brings back a character, people do that.
So this is from this episode. And it's where Carson Teva says, "What am I missing?" after Jason's like, "Mom, there's swords in the water." And Hu Yang has his hand reached out, and he's holding what appears to be a DVD copy of Rebels, which is where he tells him
That's
his
so
father,
good.
Kanan Jarrus, was a Jedi.
Oh man, I love that. That's really funny. So this is another meme targeted at one of Rachel's special interests. It's the little boy from Return of the Mummy Returns, and it just says, "Kid asks Star Wars fans what the best Star Wars film is," and what's his character's name? Who's this guy? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh.
He's like the Egyptian.
I know
like,
who he
knight-
is!
I'm explaining for.
He's a magi.
I'm not explaining to you.
Magi.
Calm down. I'm explaining to the
Oh my gosh,
people
I can't remember
at
his
home
name.
listening
So
to
there's
this.
Rick, my parents are going to disown me. I can't remember. I'm kidding. We always watch this every time it's on TV.
He's like an Egyptian, like knight.
He's a magi.
Magi.
I think
thank
that's
you.
what they're called. He's one of the like royal guards.
And he says to the little boy.
He's dressed in all black.
So the kid asks him, "What's the best Star Wars film?" And the man says to him, "By putting this on, you have started a chain reaction that could bring about the next apocalypse." Like, he's like, which just very much reminds me of our conversation about that Star Wars class the university is doing. Like that is what would happen.
It's from the second movie after the little boys put on the bracelet.
What do you got?
Optimus, be careful. The Decepticons could be anywhere. A bunch of vehicles driving down the highway. And you have an Aston Martin, a tank, a jet, and I don't remember what the last one is. A tank and a military vehicle.
Yeah, definitely not rebels in disguise. I mean, robots in disguise. Wow, that's crazy.
Brain rot.
Obligatory visual meme. It's kind of like almost like a thumbnail for a video, but it just has an image of Padme in her. Oh, dang it. She's in the...
Is it the famous Naboo dress?
No, she's dead.
Oh!
And she's in a casket.
In the casket?
I could not pull that word out.
Comments.
And it's an image of her at the funeral, at her own funeral, in a casket.
Well, I hope she's at her own funeral.
Someone has like drawn an arrow pointing to her, and in a smaller image, it's just an image of Vladimir Lenin in his casket. It's a bizarre joke,
awful.
But it's so bizarre, it's hilarious to me.
Anakin and Obi-Wan engage in an epic battle while the facility collapses. The miners on break.
It's a dog with...
It's a dog with a coffee mug.
Oh, it's like a real life recreation of that comic
This is
panel.
fine meme.
I'm also making sure I made... Okay.
Ooh, I just popped my hip. I wonder if the mic picked that up.
This is not a Star Wars meme. This is a Lord of the Rings meme that I saved for potential... I'll save memes in a folder called potential meme formats.
Oh my gosh, I do that too.
So this is not... Okay, so I'll skip that one. Boy, Anakin's kids really took after him with their eerily smooth skin texture and dead eyes.
No.
And it has Anakin, Leia, and Luke, but with their weird CGI faces from Disney Star Wars.
Anakin at 22, married, future father, general in Army of the Republic, on the Jedi Council. Luke at 22, kissed his own sister.
I saw that one. Yeah. Kissed his own sister, plays with toys. So there's a very famous meme format of Freddy from Scooby-Doo taking off the mask of the guy, and he's like, all right, let's see who it was all along, but he's taking off Merrick's mask and he's just green smoke underneath.
That's good.
What do you got?
A Transformers meme.
I have one more meme.
I have 4 more.
Okay, do 3 more.
Oh, okay, gosh. Okay. Talking mad shit for someone in Thagomizer range.
Oh my gosh. It's a it's not Triceratops. Stegosaurus, but with one of the Dinobot's
Snarl.
heads. Wow. That's a really niche joke. But this is a very niche podcast, so.
Just visual.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to explain it or do I have to explain it?
So it's, again, the scene from the end of last episode where Ahsoka turns around and where we're supposed to see Anakin. But someone has photoshopped Dexter from Attack of the Clones into where Anakin is standing, except they kept the hair.
Bizarre choice.
Okay, so one more and then I'll have my last.
I swear, if you made that one,
my last
if you post that cursed image upon us, I swear, I'm gonna ban you from making any memes.
Say? Yeah. Nobody, the Clone Wars beards.
Yeah, especially Obi-Wan's.
It's a picture of the bottom of the front of a train.
Yeah, if they like the guard thing on the front. Some train enthusiasts are going to come after us for not knowing that we're going to get into a fight with a train podcast. So this is my final meme, and it has Ahsoka in the world between worlds with Anakin, and Anakin says, "What is this place?" And Ahsoka says, "It looked like the world between worlds as seen in Rebels season 4 episode 13." And Anakin says, "Oh, okay, I don't watch cartoons."
That's good.
Yeah.
My last meme, visual.
Yes, I saw that. That's good. I like that one.
It's a picture of Balin Scroll and Shin Hati standing next to each other, side profiles, and someone put the Chad images, cartoon images, mirroring. It's pretty good. Okay, I gotta send you all the memes.
And that concludes this week's Meme Minute, but it's longer than a minute. And we will now convene internally with ourselves to try to figure out which meme the other one made, what trickery might have come about. We pretty much agreed that we're not allowed to try to trick each other, but like at least through lies, through straight up lies. Where's my? Oh, there we go. Okay.
That time I believed Cameron.
That was where you took your first mistake.
That is where I took my first mistake. I was like, are you kidding me? I was mad. I was salty. I was insulted. Hurt.
While you were looking at one of your memes a minute ago, I was trying to figure out where that crumpling sound was coming from. I was like, what is Rachel doing? It's a candy in my pocket. I was like, oh, it's me.
You're just like Athena, our editor, who likes to chew on plastic.
I wasn't chewing on plastic.
Gosh, I hope you didn't make the Lennon one. But you made the Tiananmen Square one, so I don't know anymore.
You don't know. See, you throw one major curveball at someone and they have to second guess themselves for the rest of time. Okay, so we've got, I know you didn't do the Return of the King one. The What Am I Missing? And Hu Young holding up the Rebels DVD is really funny. Optimus, be careful. The Decepticons could be anywhere. That one's really funny. The dog, man. The dog is even holding a mug with the comic panel on it. That one's really good. I know you didn't do the Anakin at 22, Luke at 22. I saw that one. The dinosaur one could easily be you. You don't usually do the classic impact font memes, but oh man, dude, if you made this Dexter Jester one, props to you, but also screw you. And I know you didn't do. Dang.
Blurst.
Well, whatever you've made is a good job. These are all excellent memes.
See, I feel like I have ideas of which one you've made. I do good at not screen sniping you when you sit next
I appreciate that. I try to. This is so hard. These are all very funny.
You have made so many Merrick Green Smoke jokes this week that, like, I don't know. But you also made a CGI joke. But this also looks like a Twitter screenshot because I do the same thing. If you faked a Twitter screenshot, I'm disowning you. I thought about doing it one time. I hope it's not the Lennon one. I don't think it's the Lion King one. There's a lot of effort into the same color-coded Darth Vader. Oh my gosh. I love iPhones. I can just copy and paste this.
Just Darth Vader, Mufasa.
That one has a mark on it. I feel like it's probably... Is it the Mummy one?
This is some of the worst podcasting possible. Just us silently thinking.
The hums and haws.
Gosh, it's hard. Okay, I'm going to guess that it's the Anakin Obi-Wan engaging in an epic battle while the facility collapses.
It's not.
Dang it! No! Okay, I'm going to take another guess. Dang. Did you make the Dexter Jester one?
No.
Dang. Okay, good. That was good. Did you make the Clone Wars beard one?
No.
What'd you make?
The Thagomizer one.
Oh,
so,
nice.
I guess like I found the format in just like a bunch of dinosaur memes on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
And I saw that one and I went, that'd be really funny with a Dinobot.
Good job. That's really funny.
So I guess maybe I can't take full credit for all of it, but I did edit Snarl and the laser eyes.
I see. So the text was already there.
Yeah.
You added.
Is that
okay.
deceptive? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, you made it a Transformers meme. It was not a Transformers meme. You made it a Transformers meme. what threw me off was that there was a little TikTok watermark.
Shoot,
So
yeah.
it's not a big deal. I could have guessed it. I could have guessed that one. That is very you. It makes a lot of sense. All right, so I fall to 6 and 4 on the season.
See, there's some good ones. But I'm also just not... I feel like I've seen the Venator one before.
Man, that's 2 straight losses for me. I started off so strong, went 5 and 2. Or 6 and 2. Did I get 6 and 2? Yeah, I was at 6 and 2. Dang. Just know that even if you get it wrong, you're still tied with me.
Did you make this one?
I did, correct. It is the visualize the man you want to be, and it's Simmons.
This is going to be my other guess because you've made so many Merrick Green Smoke meme jokes this week.
So yeah, I did indeed.
7 and 4, or is it 3?
7-3. 6. You've now jumped ahead of me. You're now in the lead, but at least I'm not in last because Caleb is 0-2 still.
Rip Caleb.
And thank you for joining us, everyone, this week. Really appreciate it. As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our intro and outro music. Props to Rachel for our artwork, and our Twitter account, Rebels and Robots Pod.
Big thanks to Cameron for running our Facebook.
Give us something to read on the pod. Leave a review, tweet or DM us memes or opinions.
Opinions.
Give us something to read.
Like a book.
This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, I was hoping something would come to me.
Purgles are filter feeders, according to their live-action counterparts, versus the Rebels animated counterparts, which have teeth, which implies that they are some form of carnivore.
Good night, I guess.
Good night, everybody.
I'll be back next week with fun Star Wars biology fun facts.
There are many benefits to being a marine biologist.
Oh no! Cut it there.